control its own destiny. You use that word to measure that how high a chance to be in the next generation reproduction. So that's really fascinating. And those kind of genes are the banners or the other genes kind of suppress. At least shouldn't be should be recessive. Otherwise, it will have a damaging effect. It will decrease the group survival, and then it will eventually be wiped out. You could enjoy your existence, but you couldn't do much harm. Yeah, really, I couldn't give you much more detail, but there are a lot of books, a lot of good books, really important part of evolution. And in evolution, I think, should be a part of a critical thinking now. It's really important for us to understand how it works. Because it affects almost everything we understand today. Not just morally, not just biologically, but also many other things. Okay, now let's talk about this very controversial topic, genetic determinism, nature versus nurture, and how Dennett will think about this issue. So, many people would say it's no doubt that our genes determines to a large degree who we are. And you have a different gene, right? You have different traits. And you have, children, you will know that many things children do display are really genetically determined, at least at the initial early stage. And certainly with this, some disease, some eye colors or blue, brown, or black are genetically determined. Even with other things, whether you will be born or not, it's also genetically determined in most cases. But then more controversial cases like intelligence and like sexuality, like violence, violence dispositions. And many people argue that they are, many people argue that not, and we'll have the debate here between two famous scientists, actually. I don't know whether you have read either of the books, but they are both raised and very important, very famous books. If you are concerned with this determinism or nature with nurture debate, you should read books. This one is very popular, especially for the conservatives. Bernstein is a Harvard psychologist, and Girl is Harvard biologist. So they both from the leading institutions and really has a lot of scientific prestige. But they are both very controversial. Girl would argue this book is bullshit, and many people argue that Girl book is really not scientific either. So you will see, even among scientists, there are many different voices. And eventually what's left to us is really we have to think about this. If you really want to find it out, you have to think about this really carefully, all the evidence, all the argument, and to decide which one is the right view. And both books are very popular to read, very easy to read actually, very good writers, and no doubt about that. And they talk a lot about this revised edition. In the early edition, that book hadn't been published. And the revised edition, he addressed that book in a long chapter, mismanagement. So the basic idea is that, okay, for the bar curve, if you haven't read it, I bet some of you must have read it, right? Really? No? Have you read the first book, the bell curve?
No, I've never heard of it.
I've learned about the
Oh, the curve is certainly everybody knows the curve. It's the bell curve.
Yeah.
But the book talks about something very different. You should read it. Really. I mean, this book.
Why?
It's very interesting. It's not just about the controversial conclusion, but also talk about how people choose different professions and what kind of people choose these different professions and the correlation between the careers and intelligence, between the race, social class, education, income, all of this. It's really based upon empirical data and try to draw some conclusion which people believe are very controversial. Yes?
Do they base that on the ASVAB, the military test that you take, and it tells you take a certain test, a 3-4 hour test, and it tells you what you would be good at, your personality?
I don't know. I don't think they are based upon that test. They have a study based upon their own experiment. It's not hard to read. You could read it in one day, I think. I know you're good readers. The conversion conclusion, the first book, the Battle of Georgia, it seems to indicate the intelligence. We call that intelligence quotient in the G. You have a score, right? So 100 is normal, 120 is better, 150 would be genius, 180 would be pretty bad. If you're 50, 60, you are just invisible. Something like that, right? We all heard of that kind of thing. Here's that intelligence seems to correlate very well with, the career and income and some moral, actions. Whether you will have abortion, whether you have, married early, those kind of things. In their studies, the more intelligent the person is, the more money the person, in average, will earn, the more income they have, and the more life they live, something like that. This is really controversial because, Stephen Gould would say, Jesus, first, you don't know there's intelligence at all. The intelligence doesn't matter anything. And second, really, there are really no such correlations. And third, what they made here that is say the large part of intelligence seems to be inheritable. So it's really determined genetically, not culturally or socially. And Gould has his most critical against that. No, it's not determined, not inherited. It's certainly up to the side of the culture. So both books are very good read. I really suggest one thing, the whole program, not just this class, I hope that you just start your journey, but not to finish the journey for you. You start the journey and say, okay, it points you to many, many different directions you can go and to explore and to see whether that's really interesting. But we couldn't finish the journey for you. So that's the two books which are recent echoes of many, many years of debate between the nature versus nurture, between whether, on the issue whether some traits of a human being, like intelligence, like sexuality, like violence, are indeed inheritable or not. Long debates, back to hundreds of years before. And even in Nazi Germany, you know that there are lots of theories that justify why to eradicate the Jews. One reason that they are not, they're not a bunch of people who are fit for the German society. And that those people would say those are genetically determined and you couldn't change them. Even they convert to Catholic Christianity, that doesn't matter. Genetically, they're already determined to be that. So those are a lot of applications in the history and a certain amount of bad applications for genetic determinists. That's why this debate is not merely scientific, but more important, it's political. Both sides has political baggage behind it. This conservative and that one liberal. Yes?
What I was going to say is that I know they've done studies on a lot of death row inmates, and a large percentage of them, when they've done like intelligence studies on them, that they're basically, like their scoring is under 80, 60, 50, and a lot of people have tried to connect their violent behavior because of their level of IQ and intelligence and stuff. So, which is
right. Remember, they're talking about the bell curve. They're not talking about everybody.
Right.
Every people on the death row would be like that, but a majority, a statistically significant majority of those people are like that. That's what the argument is based on.
So that's factual.
Yes.
Those
terms in terms.